You can, I guess you could, but I mean, my recommendation would be that $400 is about all we can spend right now for employees.
Well, you're looking at
The issue came up that they had, what about $100,000 more in claims than what they actually collected from us this year. So they raised the premium considerably.
Not quite 100,000.
Not quite.
They paid out nearly $595,000, and we paid in $596.
That will be up on the June regular scheduled board meeting, but I just wanted y'all to know the details of what we're proposing, what we're probably going to accept. Proposed. But all those years of paying that life insurance, we've never had anybody actually had, thank good you used it, you know, thank God, I mean.
And they can't take it with them. At that time they weren't,
Yeah.
but I think they can now.
Andy, we did have one claim this year.
Oh, we did?
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order, and on the roll call, we have Sandy here, Buddy here, and Martha here, and myself here as members of the present board. And the next thing we have on the agenda would be the appointment of a board member to fill the position of place 2, which was Debbie Robertson.
I'd like to nominate Billy Hill.
Okay, Buddy nominates Billy Hill.
I'd like to nominate Kathy Castaneda, but I'd also like to, if we can we visit with each of them, just get
Sure.
a little idea. I'm just kind of curious, Bill, you served on the board before, right?
Yes, sir.
I
was on, 6 years, I believe.
I'm just kind of curious of how you feel about the hospital, what you feel like is that some of our agendas might be needed. I mean, I'm just asking just because I know both of y'all are interested, I know both of y'all are concerned citizens. I just kind of be curious.
Well, I had a long talk with Andy the other day,
Mhm.
and I agree with his policy and what he has, you know, for the hospital, in mind for the hospital. I agree totally with him on his outlook.
Kathy, what about you? I mean, you concerned citizen, you want to be on the board?
I think I'm kind of like Billy. It's like almost like once you've served, you never stop caring. I think that things are really on the right track right now with our doctor, with our having a local administrator. You know, I was privileged to work with another local administrator when I was on the board, and I think that means a lot. And I just think y'all are facing some issues that, you know, I would like to help with. I mean, I would just really like to, you know, really like to serve again.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so we have Billy Hill and Kathy Castaneda nominated. I assume that we need to vote then. And Martha has suggested that we vote by ballot. Which I don't think I vote unless it's a tie, so. Which it couldn't be a tie, you got 3 people voting. Okay. Billy would be the next board member.
Welcome, Billy.
Thank you.
And after that, we would need Debbie, you prepared to administer the oath. And do that before we, and thank you for being interested enough to
Doesn't stop.
show up.
Okay, Billy, do you want to stand and repeat after me? I,
I,
and you can state your name,
Billy Hill,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office of Board of Trustee, Place 2
of the office of Board of Trustees, Place 2,
of the State of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it. I'm
All
going
right.
to sign.
Thank you, Billy.
Welcome back.
Welcome to the board.
Thank you. It's an honor to get served again.
Okay, can you furnish Billy with the agenda? So we have a couple-
I made extra copy
Okay.
for whoever.
We have two more items that were on the agenda for tonight's meeting. And the next item, we have been discussing the possible sale of the house that the hospital owns to Dr. Passman. And I think there's, Andy has spelled it out here, some complications in doing that. Andy, you wanna address it, or?
Yeah, basically it come down to in the hospital district bylaws and basically the state, codes that we have to follow as a special district. Anytime we dispose of some real property, you have to, post that notice in the newspaper, and it has to be sold at some type of public auction. Either an auction setting on the courthouse or sealed bids, I mean, you can do it either or. I've talked it over with Rick, and he is perfectly understanding of the fact that there's some risk there to that we just can't take. So I would like to just basically that we not either permanently table or just not, or vote no on the sale of the house. Because in either situation, we run the risk of somebody stepping in and basically outbidding for the house, and then we'd be with the doctor homeless. And that's just a risk we can't take. And we'd be without a house as well. So, there's just too much risk involved with that. But he and I both agreed that this is probably not a good path for us to do at this point.
Well, to finalize that, then, in my opinion, we'll have a motion to not sell the house to Dr.
Second.
All for? That passes. And the next item on the agenda is the electronic health records. And I think, Andy, you have some people here for that?
Yes, and I'm sorry I should've got your card, so I wouldn't forget.
No, that's okay, we can introduce ourselves.
These gentlemen are from Healthland. They're long-standing, matter of fact, they used to be the APS that was the hospital's, basically, APS was purchased by, or APS became Healthland.
We purchased APS. the
Yeah, you
company
purchased
APS,
it.
Yep.
So, they've got some interesting, their proposals are there. I kinda narrowed this down to CPSI and Healthland. We they're gonna present first. I think we agreed that they'll get about 30 to 35 minutes. Then we'll bring in the CPSI folks, and then they'll come back for follow-up questions from you guys. But, I guess if you introduce yourself and get started, guys, I mean.
Yeah, sure. So, I've already introduced myself to most of you, I think, but, my name's Tom Zeal. So, I report to the CEO of the company, and I'm responsible for sales and account management. So I kind of work with the customers, you know, before they purchase our system, and then I continue to work with the customers afterwards. And I have a organization of people that, you know, that report up to me, one of which is Gordon here.
Yes, and I'm Gordon Huseth. I'm actually, I live in Texas. I live in Allen. It's not too far away from here. I've been out here a number of times, you know, working with many of you folks. But I'm the regional sales manager for Healthline, and I report up to Tom. And we've been working with you for the last couple of months, and we've been presenting, you know, our solution and talking to many of you. And we feel that we have a very good solution to support your hospital, especially coming off of APS, where we know there's credibility there. And Deborah, I know that you had used it in the past, and things were good, and then, of course, things changed. So.
Right. Yeah. So, have all the board members reviewed the proposals?
We just got it.
They just
Just
got
got
the copies.
Okay. All right. So, you know, yeah, why don't you hand those out, Gordon? So, Gordon's got some information for you to take a look at, and we can talk through it. I want to be here primarily to answer your questions, but I understand you had a bad experience with your last EHR vendor, and so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I wanted to, you know, I can guess, but I'd like to hear from the board a little bit what you're looking to get out of this system and kind of your relationship with your next vendor, whichever vendor you choose. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on that?
We need to get some kind of general ledger where we can tell, I think, get more information that gives us an idea of what department is doing what, you know. We have no idea.
And adequate in-house training.
Yes, by all means.
Everybody up on this one, up to speed, rather than the way it's been doing.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to guess, but do you have some of those things promised to you by the other vendor that you initially selected?
Well, everything
Everything was promised, right? So, you know, I think there's what most of the, you know, the hospitals that I talk to are looking for, obviously, is a partnership with a company that, you know, they can use the system for maybe 10, 15, 20, hopefully 30 years, right? And they don't have to look at potentially going through this experience of selecting a system again. And there's lots of promises, I think, on the marketplace, right? So I think it's part of my responsibility to give it to you straight and tell you what I think is what we're capable of, how we're going to work with you, and we have a couple of other you know, ideas that we want to share with you today. So, and I'll direct you in a couple of cases to, you know, the proposal. So, before I get into some specifics, Gordon, why don't you walk the
Yeah.
team through a little bit about Healthline so they understand who we are.
Yep.
And have that background.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to tab 1, I'll just kind of talk about our background in Healthline. We've been around for over 30 years, providing very innovative EHR solutions. In fact, there's a number of hospitals, you know, locally that use Healthline. In fact, even the system Centric, which we're proposing today. And working with you know, our clients, they have made, you know, recommendations, and it came to us a while back ago in terms of, hey, if you were to come out with a new system, this is a number of years ago, it'd be great if it was one database, if it was easy to use, less clicks, using modern technology, where the clinic and the inpatient financials, everything is designed such that there are no, you know, interfaces. So we came out with that solution, Centric. But if you flip through the you know, the next couple slides here, you'll see where our focus is, you know, critical access hospitals. In fact, we're the number one, you know, leader in that respective space, and that's on the second page. I think there's 291 critical access hospitals that you know, use Healthline today. and 112 of those have they get tested for stage 1 meaningful use, and of course that number continues to grow every month. You flip to the next page, you kind of see the kind of dispersion of all the HealthLink clients through the U.S., of which obviously you're not alone here in Texas. So if you go to the next page, you have a strong HealthLink user group, of which many hospitals are using HealthLink. So very close to you. A number of folks will be working with you, and you guys can obviously work together very well. If you look at our growth, on the left-hand side column, you'll see all the new Centric clients that recently joined us within the last, it hasn't even been a year, probably less than a year, maybe 10, 11 months, that have signed up to use the respective,
Gordon, are all these critical access hospitals? Do you know?
These are all, let's see. Yes, they are all critical access hospitals except for the last one, which is First Street Hospital in Bel Air.
So just kind of summarizing what Gordon has talked to you about. People are good at what they do all the time, right? So what Healthland does is small rural hospitals, 50 beds and below, specific focus on critical access hospitals. And that's the type of hospital that you are. And we do that a lot. We don't have a broader focus. Some companies have a broader focus. They go up to larger 100, 150 bed hospitals, or even larger than that. We only work with smaller hospitals. And we do a lot of advocacy work for those hospitals as well. We're up in Washington on a regular basis talking on behalf of all our rural hospital customers. And we have the largest share of critical access hospitals in the market. So I think that speaks to probably the success. Obviously, if you're looking at measuring, how do we know, outside of the promises that Gordon is making and that Tom is here talking about, how do we know that we're going to be successful with this solution? Because we heard a lot of promises from the last vendor. Well, one way that you can have some comfort that you'll be successful is obviously based on the fact that this is what we do. It's all we do, and we've had a lot of success doing it. Obviously, the clients on this list are new, and they would be around and available to support you. Some of them I think you've talked to. Andy, you've spoken with a few hospitals, I think. Colorado City's not on this list, but you've spoken with Colorado City.
In Knox City.
In Knox City. I know those two CEOs would also be happy to provide support during an implementation to give you further support. You'll notice Ballinger on here. Up until recently, Ballinger's CEO was actually Lance. What's Lance's name?
Lance Killers.
Lance Killers, who was for a number of years the president of the National Rural Hospital Association. So, we've got a lot of penetration in this space working with small hospitals. I think the key things that you'll probably have to focus on are what are the differences between the two systems that you're looking at. Okay, so I want to just address that for a little bit, and then I want to propose a couple of options that we haven't really highlighted that much to date. So, mentioned earlier, lots of promises, right? So our approach is not to provide you with a bunch of promises about what we can do. It's to try to give you the hard facts about what we do. One of the things that we do differently than other vendors is how we implement the system. So there are some companies that take an approach of bringing an army of people on site, analyzing what you do, going off, building the system, coming back and training you on the system that they build with that army of people. And on the surface, it can seem comforting to have an army of people come in. But in practicality, through our experience working with small hospitals, the best way to take ownership of a system that you can then own for the next 10 or 15 years is for your team to really understand it and be a part of that implementation process. And so our approach is to come in, work side by side with you to to configure the system together. And what that does is the hospital now understands how does the system work, what what part of the system affects what other part, those sorts of things, because they're involved in that process. And you have more adoption of the system, we found, which is key to long-term successful use of the system, right? You now know how things work. You're a little bit more self-sufficient, which is what we want. We want our customers to be as self-sufficient as possible. Another thing that you'll notice is different about our proposal is what we project, and it's a projection, but what we project to be your reimbursement. So we are a conservative company. We think that Washington is spending a lot of our money, and we think that there's going to probably be a pretty tight scrutiny on the money that gets spent around the ARRA Reimbursement Act, right? And that scrutiny is going to come in the form of audits, where they're going to look at what are people submitting for reimbursement and what are they actually getting back. We know that you recently submitted some costs for reimbursement and didn't get 100% of what you put in for. I believe that the competing proposal we're looking at is suggesting that 100% of their proposal is reimbursable, and how they've done that is to kind of shift costs over to, or shift discounts over to portions of the system that are not reimbursable by the statute. We won't do that, and the reason we don't do that is because we think it's wrong, first of all, to kind of game the system a little bit. We also think that in the end, audits are going to bear out that some of those dollars aren't in fact reimbursable, and the hospital would have to give back some of those funds, and potentially incur penalties associated with that submission or request for reimbursement. That's simply not just us that's saying that, by the way. If you will look at the back part of your proposal, you'll see a letter from Eide Bailly. Eide Bailly is a fairly well-respected audit firm in the industry. You'll notice, if you read the letter, that there's a section 2/3 of the way down that talks about applying discounts, and it gives an example on the following page. And Eide Bailly has done extensive work with the. Do you have that? Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. So, Eide Bailly's done extensive work with intermediaries. These are the firms that process your reimbursement requests and also eventually will follow up with audits. And if you read this correspondence closely, it tells you that these intermediaries are quite clear that they're going to be looking for strategies that vendors may use to shift dollars to reimbursable items and to shift discounts to non-reimbursable items to maximize the reimbursement. So again, while it looks good on paper, and certainly on the surface our proposal looks like more of it or less of it will be reimbursed, we think it's the right way to do business. We think it's a conservative approach, and it protects the hospital, doesn't put you in a position where you might later receive an audit and lose money unexpectedly. So that's a difference in our proposal. Now you have a cost report to cover some of those costs. So that difference actually amounts to approximately $60,000. I think based on your experience with your first vendor, $60,000 probably seems like a small pittance, but it certainly is a cost to the hospital. And so you have a decision to make on whether a more conservative approach or whether you believe that 100% of your proposal will be reimbursable. We don't believe that that's the case. And so that's a difference between our proposal. We're happy to arrange a call with Eide Bailly or our meaningful use expert in-house internally if you'd like to talk to them about this, but I think it's a key point for you to probably take away.
Yeah, our approach, I'm sorry, Tom, just in this whole process is really because knowing where you came from and using your current system, we did not want to interject any more risk. Okay, we wanted to provide a proposal whereby it's a safer road to go down. Because we're not going to say you're going to get 100% back, because you don't want any surprises. I know Andy doesn't want to come in here a year from now or whatever it is, and say, oh, it looks like we're not going to get 100%, we're only going to get 74%, and now all of a sudden you have that delta of 26% that eats coming out of your pocket. And oh, by the way, the government saw what we were doing and they may subject some type of penalty. We don't know if that's going to happen. We do know that based upon talking to Ide Bailey, our consultants, and Tom will talk a bit more about our advocacy in Washington, that as of February and March, we're hearing things about audits that will be occurring. And so our proposal to you is to go in with a more safer approach. And it kind of tails back into our technology platform in that it's new. It leverages new technologies today. You can use your iPad, for example, for documentation, or any type of device for hardware agnostic. It's a Windows-based environment, so you can leverage Windows. You can leverage Excel and other Windows capabilities. The screens are all, there's a little picture of the screens under tab number, I think it's 2, that kind of shows you the consistency and the look and feel of the respective application, because guess what? At the end of the day, your users are going to have to embrace this solution. So if it's a solution for them that's easy to use, there's fewer clicks, and they can easily navigate and really leverage a single patient chart because there's one database, they're going to be happier, which means they're going to use the system, and the success of any implementation is based upon, in our opinion, and other systems, user adoption. So just another example of our approach in terms of reducing risk to make this project successful, and of course the training.
So, at any rate, I think we can't guarantee, nobody can guarantee that there's audits. In fact, I think if you asked any vendor to say, can you write us a guarantee that you won't be audited, they're not going to write you that guarantee, right? Because that risk exists out there. So we think that a more conservative approach is better. That's our take, but it represents a different in terms of total cost that you have to take into account, and we understand that. The other thing that we've had a little bit different, I think, and I'm not sure how much of this Andy has shared with you, but we know that the board wants a system up by October. Certainly the financial system to be able to present reports and get a GL in place, and as Marvin, as you indicated, right? And when you don't have that, that creates quite a burden for the hospital. You're not able to track your financials, you're losing money, you need to get a system in place quickly, and we understand that. If you research implementations and failed implementations, you'll learn a couple of facts. One of them Gordon touched on already, which is if the users don't adopt the system, if they don't like the system, it's that much less likely to be successful. 2 is if there's artificial things that are driving the implementation. So if you don't plan as a team and work together on a timeline that makes sense together, if you're targeting, we're going to go live on this date no matter what, if that's your approach, that interjects risk into the implementation. So you have to be careful of that. Now, we've committed, and we can put the resources in place to get the system up in October. We have told you that we prefer a phased approach because we think it's risky to target a particular date. So by using a phased approach, we're taking some risk out of the equation. So we'll get that financial system up, then we'll get the clinical system up. But I have another alternative that I think is unique to Healthland that we can offer you, which is to simply, in the near term, clear out your APS database. We understand some of it had some bad data in it. And potentially bring up that APS system that everybody's already familiar with and knows how to use. And you can now begin to collect financial data and have a GL in a real quick order because it's a system that you know how to use. You're familiar with it. We happen to own that system. And we can extend support on that system. And that might be a good way to get things rolling again. Get the hospital back on its feet faster with a GL. And then not have to worry so much about we're going to try to target a particular time frame and get everything done as quick as we can, right? Because what you want, I think, is to have a successful implementation. You don't want to go through a mistake again, right? So it's not about targeting a date. It's about doing the project right and getting the hospital back on its feet as quick as possible. We think APS may give you that opportunity because I think everybody that we've talked to already has used the system, is familiar with it. It's configured for your use already. It's really just a matter of turning it on and cleaning out the data in there and starting fresh. What that'll give us is when we're when we do convert the financial system to our new technology, we'll have now financial data that we can convert in there, which we do all the time because we have a lot of APS customers that we convert over. So now we've already generated some history, as opposed to waiting 180 days from now to have any GL in place, right? Let's get it up quickly in the next couple months, get you rolling, have something in place, you can get your reporting for the board, for the hospital, and then convert you. So that's something that we'd like to consider. It's an option we've been talking about internally. Seems like it's a viable option for you. We did have one other hospital that did that. Went from APS to another system. We can't tell you who because we're broadcasting live here, I understand. But then came back and implemented APS, and now they're evaluating going to our newer technology, but they needed to get something back up, kind of similar situation to you, as quickly as possible, so they basically reverted back to that system. So, have any of you thought about that option previously? Does that raise any concerns for you? Does that sound like something that might be a good idea for the hospital to get your legs under you quickly?
And there's just a lot of detail in there from stuff that bad information we have got, but into Magenics at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of patient accounting that's set up there on the individual accounts. I mean, we'd hate to get that any more messed up than it already has been.
Right.
It's just now getting reasonable where statements are getting out, at least in a
right.
not ideal situation, at least
Right.
It's get closer to being reasonable.
I think there's some more work we have to do, Andy,
There's
to
a lot of things you'd have to
evaluate that strategy, but certainly without having to configure a system, without having to train people on it, it's logical. You could probably get that up, but we would have to, there's work to be done, right? We'd have to look at that. We probably would want to start fresh with a clean database, so that you don't have any old data in it, but then now we're collecting new data from this point on. Might be an option that we'd be willing to talk to you about. In the end, if we decide together that that's not the best option, you're still live on your financial system by October. And so we're good either way. This gives us another option to look at to help the hospital quickly. One other thing that really didn't highlight a lot in our proposal is the fairly recent news in the marketplace. I think Gordon's already talked about the fact that we're a leader in the critical access hospital space. The healthcare climate's changing, right? So reimbursement models are changing, right? So it's going to be more and more important to also track patients post-acute care, right, into your long-term care facility. It's going to be critical in the future because there are going to be penalties that will be incurred for 30-day returns, and there are going to be significant penalties. And with an aging population, more and more people going into Medicaid, Medicare, going into those settings all the time, that's going to become an important part of your business. I understand it's already generates some revenue for you, but I was also losing some money, so you need a good system to manage that long-term care facility. And the direction of healthcare is about managing the health of a population, right? So within the community, managing the entire population health. So that's Healthland's vision as well. We have all the tools to do that within our solution set, and we just acquired another company called American Health Tech. American Health Tech is the industry-leading solution for long-term care facilities, as it happens, and that's part of our strategy to manage the health of a population within a community. That long-term care solution is the solution that's a part of your proposal. So it's the most complete solution, and it's, again, an industry-leading solution out there in a segment of your business that's going to become increasingly important. You now are going to have a leading critical access solution in the inpatient setting and a leading solution in your long-term care setting, all provided by a single vendor, all running on the same SQL database and integrated together. So. Something that
is included in all that as well.
Yeah, so that's something new as far as our proposal. I wanted to stop there though. Just are there questions that anybody has about our proposal or differences between us and other solutions that you're considering?
I have a question on the APS bill. Do we have that many people still I mean, would that be a problem going back to the APS solution? I mean, if we already have it on our system, I mean,
The
We have people
IHL,
that refers back to it now, I mean.
are we gonna have to start, if we get them and they were just, if they didn't have the APS, would they have to start from stage 1, 2?
the only turnover we've had in that area is in the medical records area.
But, I mean,
Everyone else is still
if their
familiar with it.
system's already kinda going with that APS that we used to have, people are kinda familiar with it. If they didn't have, and I'm just asking, okay, if they didn't have it, would they have to start from stage 1 and go up? If now it's
Well-
already kind of in there, I mean, I don't understand, if like, if
My-
it's an advantage,
What I've looked at, I mean, the new Centric solution they're talking about there is radically different from APS. I mean, they may have, I'm assuming you can do your data transfers from APS smoothly because y'all work together, but as far as our in-house people, Centric will be like learning a new system. Now, the good thing about APS though is that all of them, 80% of them already know how to use it anyway. I know Deborah and Jean and Tony and all of those individuals still know how to use APS. They worked in it for how many years?
Well, until 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
until 2 years.
And your
So I
outsourced
think the-
billing partner.
The learning curve would be fairly
what?
quickly on picking it up.
what'd you say?
Oh, your outsourcing, your
Mhm.
billing partner knows APS as well. So it'll be kind of an interim, so you guys come up to speed and then go over to Centric Financials. But get you up quicker, because we don't know what's gonna happen 2 months from now, 3 months from now with your current situation.
You'd still move to Centric, and that
Right.
change would still be a big change for, a change to an EHR, as you've already kind of learned, is a big change for an
Yeah.
organization. I mean, it's a tremendous undertaking, right? And so, that's not gonna change. You know, you're still gonna move off of APS at some point. The difference is that APS is our solution. The sunset date here was September for that application, but just like you have people that know it, we continue to have people that know it, and we're gonna be extending that date for you, so that's not gonna be an issue. And the only benefit that you get from it, I think, is to alleviate the pressure on focusing on time to be successful with the project, so that you can now get a system up that you're familiar with, that'll get the GL in place, to Marvin's point earlier, get your reporting, that's something that everybody's familiar with, now you've got a system in place, and that pressure's kind of relieved a little bit. Now you can take your time and do the project right, and if doing the project right means you're all the way off APS by October, that's what it means. But if it means that, you're off by November, now you don't have to worry about, the fact that you were just, trying to push a peg through a hole, by a particular time frame. Because that's when you start to introduce risk to a project, is when you're trying to kind of artificially move it along faster than you need to, in our experience. And so I think that's the benefit potentially of the system, is it might allow you to, get your legs underneath you a little bit quicker, so.
We're still gonna have to change.
You're still gonna have to change eventually. Yeah.
My question is, so
Yeah.
when we do change, I'd like for you to tell me what y'all will do to teach our people how to do this.
So, I think 2 ways, I guess, we offer a variety of training tools, first of all, right? So, I think some of them are outlined at a high level in there, but we have most of the training's done on-site here, so some vendors send people to their corporate office. We think it's better to do the training here. And so, we'll come out here, do the training. Part of the training that occurs is also by doing, right? And I don't know about the rest of you, but I always learn something better when I'm doing it. If I write it down, I remember it. That's always how I remembered stuff in school. And so, I think that's part of our implementation philosophy, right? Rather than, again, send a load of people in that do the majority of the work for you, we are gonna send a team in, and they're gonna work with your team, identify people at the hospital, and those people will be working with us to configure the system, and in the process of doing that, learn the system. Then we'll have formal training as well, right? And so, that's how we do the training. And we also have public training courses, and then we also have the web-based training is part of it.
Yeah, we have e-learning tool that is available to your folks. I mean, during the process as well as even after we leave, because we want you to be self-sufficient. I mean, if you took a look at the application, there's like help screens throughout the application. There's e-learning tools.
So e-learning is a library of several hundred
Content.
courses that people can go out and take, and typically what we have people do is take some of those as even a precursor to the in-person training at the hospital. And then we'll come, those are always available to you, for the next year, and it's a service that you can continue to use if you elect to, so that if you have turnover at the hospital, doesn't sound like you have a lot of turnover, but if you do, and you want to have somebody kind of take a course, it doesn't cost you anything, because you've got, e-learning, you can have them take that e-learning course, they can kind of study at their own pace, so.
And we'll be out here for several weeks providing the training. We're just not going to show up the week or 2 weeks before go live and train you and expect you to, go live, learn the product, and then deal with your day-to-day jobs. We're going to train you over a period of time, pre and post implementation, and it's a big distinction for us. With those people that have the domain expertise is for you.
Yeah, but Marvin, I think probably the bigger, thing again that I would stress is, community. So there are hospitals in Texas and around you that use the system, and I would also expect that you would turn to them for some assistance. But
Even after the training though, and when you change over, people actually go to use it, there's still gonna be lots of questions.
Always are.
I don't care how much training you get.
I agree.
There's gonna be lots of questions, and that's when we really need some support.
Yep, we've been doing this for 30 years, so, we've got our implementation methodology down with the training we think is right. I would say that would be a good question to call Colorado City or Knox and ask them, how they felt the training was, but, certainly, we have our full, program of training that we typically provide with an implementation as part of your proposal. We haven't reduced it in any way or anything like that. So.
And also part of it, another group that reports to Tom is the client management team. There'll be a gentleman I'll be with you for probably the next year. There'll also be another gentleman that'll be your client manager that'll work with you, and also that person will work with another individual. So there's a whole account management team that also will work with you to ensure success.
What is your job turnover like? Okay, we've had problems where a trainer comes in,
Yep.
6 months down the road, we gotta have another trainer, somebody that has to learn their system at their company before they can teach us.
Yep.
Do y'all have pretty consistent people where you're not training your people to work with us this week and then you train another set next week to train? I know job turnover is another thing, but
Sure.
that's a concern that we have because we've run into that with this last group, from what I understand. They knew almost as little as we did.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And there's a lot of,
Who do we go to after that point?
Yeah.
Will you
Yeah.
come down and help us? Because I know you can't say that this person will be here for the next 10 years, but we want to be, if we're going to be trained, we want to be trained,
Sure.
and not 2 weeks later, train the trainer.
Right, yep. It's hard for me to, as you said, make a prediction about whether one of your trainers might be around forever, but, we have I think some of the lowest turnover in our industry.
Okay.
On our team, so, we have, most of my employees, in fact, are, Gordon is probably the newest guy I have on my team. Most of the employees that I have on my team are, anywhere from 7 to, we have one guy that's 20 years with the company, so pretty long time, in general.
Yeah, but many of the APS folks are still with us today.
Yeah.
Another testament. They've been with us now for...
Well, that's one of the reasons that we can offer the APS option for you, is that we actually have people that still know the system and support it and used to train users on it, so it would allow us to do that option if we felt like that was the right thing to do. I would just tell you, if something like that were to happen, you'd need to pick up the phone and call us on that, and we have to, make that right. But, most of our customers have pretty good experience with training and with our system. So I think, again, it's just me talking, right? So the best thing you can do is to follow up with the accounts and the names that we gave you and find out from firsthand what their experience is. We're confident that you'll hear the, good things, so.
Thank you.
You bet.
I think we're past our
Okay.
time.
Yep, thanks, Marvin, you bet.
But Tom and Gordon, we appreciate you coming by and taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, it's our pleasure, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We get your.
If the,
Electronic, and the old APS system was not set up to do that. So that's why they were phasing out.
We get somebody else.
This company come in and bought the APS out, and they were gonna phase it out.
anything with it, or they phasing it out, is that what,
They were phasing it out.
what are we doing now?
That's
Keep it
basically
going.
what it was.
Yeah,
They were
that's
phasing it out.
I guess you're.
There wasn't gonna be any more support for it after 2014.
Yeah, that's what it needs, is just, work to get, have somebody that will help
Are y'all fired or?
time to time.
Crack the bearing, but I'm not a good person to ask.
You're not snoozing over there yet?
What? I sleep with my eyes open.
Yes, they're coming in. This is the CPS doctor.
This is the most comfortable.
Hello.
How are y'all?
How are you?
Lyle Hutchison.
Marvin Vaughn.
Nice to see you.
I'm Martha.
Nice to see you. Lyle Hutchison.
How are you?
Buddy, yeah, nice to meet you, buddy.
Lyle Hutchison.
Bill Hill.
Nice to see you.
Buddy Mac.
Yeah, nice to see you, Lyle Hutchison.
Bill Hill.
I need y'all to sign in, please.
I'm Martha Johnson.
Marvin Vaughn, yeah. Troy Rosser. Thank you, Troy.
I work at the hospital.
Nice to meet you. Wow.
You got, I guess Martha wants to get us.
We're gonna project, which way, here, right here? Or-
We've done that, we had.
Did y'all do that just a minute ago? Did y'all, they just stopped? We've got a PowerPoint, is it all right if we project it? And I think we got to plug in that one.
Don't steal.
No, not at all.
Too close to you.
So they will kind of,
Use that.
I'll fill it.
We gotta move the table, I
You
think.
wanna move the table
yeah, we'll come
some?
out a little bit that way.
I don't know if it's gonna go up.
Sometimes it doesn't. Whatever it is, sometimes it doesn't.
We're messing all kinds of things up, won't we?
Oh, man. $500. That's an FCC deal. It'd be worth it, though, ain't it?
I got some water.
No, thank you, sweet.
Let me just turn that off. Put it over here out of y'all's way.
Keep them on. Nobody's gonna grab my tongue yet. Keep it close.
They do feel the best up there sometimes, but.
Oh, sorry.
Especially
Sure, we can always do it, too. Yeah, there you go. Come in a little bit, table line, if we need to.
What time does the wind start blowing?
Yeah.
So we could be the capital of the world if we wanted to.
Our presentation, it'll probably take, I mean, we've got, I don't know, a few slides, it'll probably take 30 minutes or so to basically, we'll give you some background, but just give you some company background on what we're all about, go from there, answer any questions.
I'll get over here on the way. I just need to keep an eye on the tape. No, I never have really fun.
What is it, 95, 90, or 40? It's usually like half and half. If it's a 60-minute tape, you have 30 on
I
each
think it's
side.
9.
You probably 45 minutes on each
Yeah.
side, probably. I mean, that's how it
Yeah,
usually is.
probably right.
45, 45.
Now, if everything just works the way it should.
Modern technology.
Yeah.
We can turn that light on if you need. We can turn these off if you.
Really? You're gonna be able to see it?
Yeah. I can see here.
I have no symbol for it.
Well,
Really, I've been over this stuff.
I mean, so, yeah. That way I can
I've
see it
been
all.
going through that stuff.
Yeah, there's one right there by Andy.
That's all right, I'll get right here.
Y'all still see locked out?
Yeah. Might do a big cut.
Yep.
I can.
Can you see Marvin?
Everybody see that? Once I get out of the way.
It'll make it different.
Mine your one.
No, it may not pick it up. We tried.
Chairs don't slide.
I guess y'all can see back there. See the end of there?
Looks pretty good.
I mean, we're the board up here and they're just observers, so we're the important one.
All right.
Oh, Billy's over there. Billy,
Yeah,
you're not, you gotta sit over here. Can you see?
I can see.
Okay, yep.
That's what these are for.
So here we're at.
I can move.
Put
You want
this
to
in the chair.
be better here?
No, I'm fine right here.
Is it okay
Sure.
if I put this hat in the chair? Great. I guess first of all, thank y'all for having us. We appreciate the opportunity that you've given us. My name's Troy Rosser. I'm Senior Vice President of Sales at CPSI.
I'm Lyle Hutchison. I'm Vice President of Sales for CPSI.
And I've been at CPSI, I guess next March will be 25 years.
For me, August will be 23 years, so.
As I understand it, you know, y'all have gone through this selection process, and basically y'all have narrowed it down to 2 vendors, I think. As I understand it, there was a straw vote that's been taken.
Well, this was within the hospital.
Within the hospital. And what y'all are looking for is, I guess, to hear from us, comparison and contrast between the companies and why we believe we're the best fit for the hospital based on y'all's current needs. So what I've done is put together a brief presentation of CPSI and Stonewall Memorial Hospital of how we can benefit y'all and really what differentiates us from our competitors. Obviously, we're all in the same business, we're both in the same business, but there are very significant differences from a company perspective that you see in some cases when you look at the software, but if you're not in this business, you wouldn't know necessarily those differences. And if you haven't been doing this for as long as we have, you might not know. So anyway, start off with the theme of this presentation is one, and you're going to notice the number 1 throughout this presentation. And I do want to encourage y'all to ask questions as I go through this. If I say something that you don't understand, or you don't understand how I'm saying it, or because of the way I'm saying it, or if you just don't understand what I mean by it, then please stop me and ask me, okay? But that, number one is the theme. From a company perspective, we've been in business, CPSI has been in business providing information systems for community hospitals for almost 34 years. We are based out of Mobile, Alabama. We currently have about 1,400 employees. From a business perspective, we focus on providing totally integrated clinical and financial application systems for the community hospital market. Okay. From a company aspect, when you look at a company, I know this is a significant investment y'all are making. We want you to know that we're a sound company that you're investing your money in. These are our numbers for the past couple years. When you look at our growth over any 5-year period, as indicated here, that growth has been 15% or greater on average. Our revenues for the last 2 fiscal years are also listed here. When you look at revenues from a long-term perspective, you know, one of the things that can really, or that has hurt companies in this business over the years was growth. That was uncontrolled growth. We've been doing this for 34 years, as I said, and growth on a steady growth level is what I want you to get out of this. So our client growth and our revenue growth has been steady over those years. So, you know, what I want you to understand is we've been CPSI, one company, for 34 years. So back to the number one, the theme of our presentation. When you look at the alternative, our competitor, and some of this y'all may know, and again, my point is to compare and contrast. Our competitor has been multiple companies, multiple faces, multiple names. I believe y'all have experience with one of these. You know, what you're going to get tomorrow could be different than what you get today. That's the point in this, you know. So, and that change affects everybody. Anytime there's change within a company, it affects the customers, it affects the employees, and everything else. From a significant statistics perspective, you see our customer ranking or bed sizes and range. You see that we've ranked number 1 by Black Book Rankings, which is a third-party ranking done in the industry, number 1 since 2010. We have over 600 hospitals that are under 100 beds. You can see the rest of those bullet points there. I think the point is that we're in this business in a big way. We've been doing this for a long time. We're in this business in a big way. The acronym CPOE stands for Computerized Physician Order Entry, and we have over 480 facilities utilizing that today. That's seen as one of the most advanced clinical applications in the market. From a client distribution perspective, again, our hospitals are spread across the country. Here in Texas, we have around 70, a little more than 70. We are in, I believe, 47 states today. And again, we've gone out and we've earned every one of those customers. In other words, we haven't grown through acquisition. We've gone out and sold our system to every one of them. I think when Lyle started, how many hospitals did we have?
Put me on.
Sorry, but
no, probably less than 100.
Less than 100. When I started, we had 33 customers.
I think we were 75.
So, I mean, I've seen the growth, been a part of it, I understand the industry.
You have local hospitals?
We do. We do. We do.
And we can talk about this too in a minute. I know Troy and I brought up the fact that obviously we've been there, both of us have been there for a long time. But that goes through all of management and the longevity that we've had at CPSI with a lot of our employees. So I mean,
y'all are a critical access hospital, which means your reimbursement is cost-based, as opposed to a prospective payment system, you know, reimbursed based on the DRG system. So obviously there are differences financially in the way critical access hospitals run versus a prospective payment hospital, different things that come into consideration when you're making different decisions. And what y'all need to know is that we have approximately 24% of the market share in the critical access hospital market. Our number is probably a little higher than 315. The government looks at that number of hospitals, I believe it's at the end of March every year, and I think there's 1,328 critical access hospitals across the country, okay? So, I mean, we understand, your facility and the challenges that critical access hospitals have. We understand the resources that you need to run your hospitals. Again, let's compare and contrast what we just covered. The number one, we've earned all of our market share. In other words, we've not grown through acquisition. We've had one product that we've continued to enhance throughout the years. Once you get a license for our applications, then it's a perpetual license. That means that you get the right to the enhancements through your monthly support fees. We haven't gone out and developed a new system and come back to existing customers and said it's time to re-up. Okay, that's why our customer retention is as high as it is. That's why our employee retention is as high as it is, because we don't give customers a reason to leave. If you go back to them and tell them, hey, if you want to stay a customer, you're going to have to buy this next version, then you give them a reason to go shop. That's not the way we conduct business. All of our customers are utilizing the same product that we're proposing for your facility. When you compare and contrast that with our competitor, again, there's a lot of questions that come up. A lot of that's generated by the growth, by the way the market share was earned, and by the acquisitions. So, that does add complexity into running the company and how it impacts your customers. From an integration perspective, and integration is a word that's really overused and misused in our market. What we mean by integration is that all of our applications are sharing the same single database, not the same type of database or anything else. I know y'all have a long-term care. I believe y'all have long-term care here. We have a clinic application. We pretty much have all the applications to run all of your business on the same system. Again, what's significant about that too, we're a single source solution. So everything that we're proposing comes from CPSI, okay, whether it's the software, the hardware, the support, or the services. It's all coming from CPSI. The support from a detail perspective, you have to get your data converted before you can start using it. You have to get the mapping set up of the data that's on your current system to the new system. You have to get the system implemented, the hardware installed, and so forth. You have to get your staff trained, and then you have the support after that. And that's support on the software side, on the hardware side, and then on the technology side or the IT side, which is that gray area, your operating system and things like that between the hardware and the software. CPSI provides all of that. From a system setup or data migration perspective, again, we do that. We've included in our quote that we provided to Andy the cost for doing that. That is included. There's a lot of benefits to us doing that, or to us doing that for you. And some of those benefits are listed here. I think what's important for you to know is that we've included this at a fixed fee. There is no open-ended cost to any part of our proposal. That would include everything up to our out-of-pocket expenses, which are fixed. Okay, so you don't have to worry as a board, how are we doing with our costs relative to implementation and training. One thing, if any of y'all have ever been involved with system conversions at any level, whether it's a bank or a hospital or any type of business, the time that it takes to get your data from your current system to your new system is something it's usually an estimate in best cases, but most people would charge you an hourly rate or a rate that's an open-ended rate, and then the associated costs that go with that become open-ended. And so think of it as a parking meter running, if you will. And that meter, you put X amount of money in it to cover you while you're parking, and if that meter's still running and you run out of money, you got to put more money in it. We've quoted you a fixed fee for this. And that would include your out-of-pocket expenses as well. So that's why we say there's an absolute cost ceiling for planning and budgeting purposes, so there'd be no surprises to you as a board. From a CPSI approach, our approach is to send in a large number of people to train your staff, and that's because they are truly training your staff. And not only are they training your staff, but they're staying at the hospital after your staff starts to use the system. Because the reality of it is that you really don't know, or no one knows what they know until they're on their own. And when they start using the system on their own and having those initial questions, then you have to have people there to support them when they have those questions, because in those initial moments of questioning whether or not they're hitting the right key, or what do I do here, and they're not going to touch anything, and they're just going to say, I'm not going to use the system for it, you have to give them support to increase that confidence level that what you've taught them is the right thing to do, and also to teach them that you really can't hurt anything by touching the wrong key or pressing the wrong key or selecting the wrong answer. We can fix whatever you do, but you have to be there to support them, to give them confidence. So that's why we send the number of people that we do. You can't just send people in and say, we're going to, train this group, and then we're going to disappear and come back, and we'll find out how you did when we get back. You have to have them there. Y'all are open 24 hours. We got to cover 24 hours. We're going to cover every department, every shift that y'all have for that time period. We're going to get your staffing levels. This may or may not be representative of what you have. I can tell you that the hospital that this is from is larger than y'all's facility. It wasn't a critical access hospital, but it was about a 40-bed hospital, okay? Then you look at volumes and things like that. But the thing that you need to know is that this is a labor-intensive business. We've been doing it for 34 years. We wouldn't send the people if we didn't think it was necessary to be successful. And the fact is, it's got to be successful, or it doesn't work for anybody. We have to keep running our business, and we have to make sure you're successful. If you're successful, we're successful. So to recap that, again, we're one company. We're all based here in the U.S. We're providing all of your EMR-related mapping, installation, training, support, everything that has to do with your system, support, installation, everything is provided by CPSI, okay? In contrast, again, and I know y'all have a relationship with the vendor that our competition is partnered with, but the fact of the matter is, if you got one person responsible for the transmission and the other one's responsible for the engine and the other one's responsible for the fuel in the car, then it's real hard to get things done when you have a problem. And if you have problems with us, you come to us. If you have issues with us, you come to us. If you don't have that situation where you can go to one place and get it taken care of, it doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then it's not going to be as efficient getting whatever it is you need handled. And I think y'all can relate to that probably in a lot of different aspects of life. Okay, that's just the way it is. Again, integrated architecture, I mentioned that earlier. Again, all of our development has been done by CPSI. There's a lot of benefits to that. Of course, one of the biggest benefits is that as we enhance our software, we understand where the foundation was, what it's gone through to get to the point it's currently at, and then we can efficiently enhance our product, bring it to market, provide the support that we need to provide. From an integrated aspect, the fact that you're sharing a single database and it's truly running on a single database is going to eliminate duplication of effort throughout your facility. Okay? So your clinical information is going to flow immediately to your financials. Financial side is keeping score of what's happening on the clinical side in a very simple manner. You have to have the financial side. I mean, that's your business side. You can't tell the power company, or maybe y'all can, that things aren't working right, so I can't pay the bill yet. But you got to have the money flowing. But all that money is generated by what's happening on the clinical side. You're in the business of providing clinical care. You just got to keep score of it, and you got to have a financial system that can do that. And by having all that integrated, all developed by one company, then it's easy to get that taken care of. All these applications are, some of the applications are pretty much a comprehensive list of what we've developed. It's pretty comprehensive. It's in the proposal that we provided to Andy. And, quite honestly, there's no other vendor in the business that has quite a complex and complete comprehensive list of applications. So back to the theme, the number one, again, a fully integrated system, all developed by CPSI with many, many benefits. Again, the alternative is you have multiple companies involved. You have pieces and parts of different systems, if you will, that have been pieced together. And, hopefully the drive shaft lines up with the transfer case and all those things. And when you got a problem with the transfer case, then hopefully you can find the drive shaft that's going to fix it. And, when you can't, you can't, and you move on. But we can control everything with our system. We don't have to worry about developers not being around that were there when part of the system you're using isn't used anymore. Part of that system has a problem. You don't have to worry about the fact that, we've already recouped our investment in 3 or 4 of these pieces of the system, and now we got to find a way to move forward with this next group. I mean, that's just the nature of the business and the way things go. And when you look at companies that don't grow organically, or they grow through acquisition and they grow their product by continuing to just bolt things on, then you end up with a lot of other challenges other than just taking care of business. And this is not an easy business. I mean, it is not easy. We're one company. We've always been one company. But it's not easy. I can't imagine how hard, well, I can't imagine how hard it is if you're not in that situation. It'd be very hard. Again, the benefits that, we believe we can provide to Stonewall that are unique. I can't mention it enough. All the applications have been developed by us. And as I said, you don't need interfaces to communicate within your own products. Everything's running off a single database. We know that you got to have money to pay your bills. We understand the importance of having cash to run the hospital, to pay your employees, to pay your vendors and things like that. We know you have to have that cash flow. But you don't get the cash without taking care of the clinical side. It doesn't just happen without taking care of things on the clinical side, so you need to operate efficiently. So the clinicals are integrated with the accounts receivable. All that information maps correctly to the general ledger so that you can get your financials and things generated and actually know as a board with confidence what your financial position is in your facility.
And that can be broke down into different departments. I mean,
yes, sir. You can look
such as physical therapy or the nursing home or the alternative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There are multiple ways to break it down. You can look at different service levels like that. You can look at your service area. There's a ton of reports, which I think we probably left Andy a hard copy of some of them, so that y'all can look at your business and say, hey, where's our business coming from? Where are we doing well? Where are we not? And make some business decisions with good information. And have confidence in the information that's out there.
And you can do that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, real time. So it's out there for you.
Yeah. You can look at your providers, and see what's being generated from whom and so forth. Again, more of the benefits that we talked about, the data mapping I mentioned. Again, everything that we're providing, the implementation, the training, it's all from us. And if you have any issues, which, I'll be honest with you, it's a big project. It's a huge project. And there are going to be issues. There are going to be situations that come up that are going to need attention and going to need additional attention. It doesn't matter how well we plan. It doesn't matter how well you plan. Things are going to come up. And you can call us, and we're the ones that are going to take care of it. You're not going to say, or we're not going to say, hey, that's not our piece, or we got this other third-party company involved. Let's see what they say. And again, y'all are in business. Y'all understand when you get multiple companies involved, things get more complex. It takes you longer to get to the real issue or the real cause of something, and it's just not an efficient way to do things. Talk about trends, and I actually did this for somebody else last week, and I thought I'd share it with y'all. I guess our competitor was sold in July of 07, to an investment company, and I told y'all how long I've been doing this, and I just went back and looked, because somebody asked me for this last week, about market trends, and what you see here is the number of times that we have replaced them since 1992. And so you get 65 times, okay? And in the red, you see the time frame there, and in the green, you see the time frame since the change I mentioned. So, you know, there's a significant trend. It is what it is. That's just strictly data that's out there providing information that shows you a trend in the marketplace. And that trend is that more facilities are choosing CPSI to replace those systems. So, again, back to our number one, a little ahead of myself here. More hospitals, more critical access hospitals are choosing to migrate to CPSI. Why? Because of the reasons that I've mentioned. This isn't something that we just started doing. This isn't something that we said, hey, let's change the way we're doing business. We found a way to be successful back in the 80s and 90s, and it's worked for us, and we just followed that and stayed true to it. The alternative or other information that's out there today and is actually at the forefront of our industry, and this means something to y'all too because it impacts your reimbursement. You're reimbursed based on how the government calculates this, but the government, you know, with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of '09 established a certain amount of funds to be available for achieving or installing an electronic medical record, but then they also established objectives that you had to achieve. In other words, you couldn't just install the system. You got to use it, and you have to meet these objectives, and you have to prove it, and you have to attest to it. And so, you know, they put a lot of money out there. They didn't make it easy. They made it hard. I mean, that's by design, okay? However, if you achieve meaningful use, then you can apply for reimbursement from the government to cover a certain portion of that, depending on whether you're a critical access hospital or a prospective payment. Y'all are critical access, so you look at your Medicare percentage, you get a 20% bump, and then everything that's allowable under Medicare, what they say is allowable, they'll reimburse you that base Medicare plus your 20% bump, okay? Well, there's all kinds of reports out there, healthit.gov, which is it's a government website. Everybody's been tracking all the vendors in our industry, saying how are their customers doing. Finally, today, an industry as complex as ours has basically a single benchmark that you can compare all vendors across that one benchmark, which is great. I mean, we think it's great because for years it's been nothing but a lot of confusion and everything else. So we've got this one benchmark. Well, you can see here that CPSI customers are doing extremely well. This is CPSI right here. This is your alternative option, okay? Well, we're all trying to get our customers to accomplish the same thing. There's nothing different that our customers have to do that nobody else has to do, okay? Yeah, this vendor's doing great too here. You know, they're ahead of us. We're not number one, we're number two. We're right here. Okay. They're in large tertiary facilities. We're in community hospitals. We got, you know, almost 320 critical access hospitals. Y'all know the resource difference between large tertiary facilities and critical access hospitals. Our customers are doing great. When you take that and narrow it down further and you look at just our market, then how are we doing? You know, when you don't compare us against the rest of the world, just like y'all don't compare yourselves to educational facilities and learning facilities, you compare yourself against your peers, something that's relevant. So when we take our market and we look at all the other vendors in our market, and I think, again, y'all probably recognize some of the names, you notice we're doing extremely well. Our customers are doing extremely well. When we look at, and again, this was as of April 2nd. Today, however, Modern Healthcare put out an article, and this is from the Modern Healthcare. Did you see this today, Andy? I don't know if you saw it.
No, I didn't.
This came out at 2:45 Eastern time today. Okay, and it talks about the hospital, the company I showed you here down here. It says this came out today, but this is good through the end of February. It says here's our ranking right here. So CPSI ranked second in the hospital complete EHR inpatient category with 458 hospitals. Okay, that's compared to the other vendor. And then it goes on over here, and you can see the numbers. CPSI here has 458, Meditech 415, Cerner 325, and Healthland 210. So again, all of our customers have to do the same thing. How are we helping our customers get there? How are our customers really doing? One of the main things that's important to run your business. If you don't achieve meaningful use as a hospital, you're going to get a Medicare cut. I mean, they're putting the money out there now to get you there. That's the carrot. The stick's coming later. Okay? And this has been stage 1, stage 2's coming up, and then stage 3, and they're only making it harder. And if you're having trouble on the first lap, wait till you get to the second and the third lap. You think you're going to be winded then, you're going to be winded. You're going to have a real challenge. They're going to keep raising the bar. Again, back to the theme, we're the one clear leader. We provided y'all a proposal. We guaranteed that you can achieve meaningful use with our system. We guaranteed the installation dates. I understand October. Is important for y'all. I understand financials are important, but you still got to provide the clinical care. We'll install the system however you want to install it. We believe the best way to get you to meaningful use, the most successful way to do it, is the way that we proposed. We've also included a payment plan to get you there. So we're financing. I mean, we have enough confidence in your ability and our ability together. This isn't something that we're going to do by ourselves. This isn't something you're going to do by yourself. All those hospitals that got there, right here, we didn't do that. We helped them. We provided a tool and we provided the resources. Their people had to do a lot of work too. And nobody can get there on their own, whether it's us or whether it's the hospital people. And so, but we know that we have a proven method to get you there. We have a lot of success, and I think the success speaks for itself when you look at the industry. We've actually provided y'all a very competitive proposal. You know, you're kind of in a unique position. We want to earn your business. This is the market we've made a living in since 1979, and we want to earn your business, and that's why we're here. So, in the end, back to our theme, we believe the one clear choice for success for your facility is CPSI. We'll get you there. We'll do what we tell you we'll do, and you know that's just like we do for everybody else. If we can do something, we'll tell you we'll do it. If we can't do it, we'll tell you we can't do it. But that's what's been successful for us, and that's what makes our partners successful. Thank y'all. Y'all have any questions for me?
Well, when it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, would you explain to them the difference in the interpretation of the meaningful use incentive plan and how your deal's structured?
Well,
and basically, I mean, that's where the biggest difference in the cost between the two plans is. I mean,
and let me say this. There are eligible costs that Medicare is going to say is eligible. Those items that are eligible cost under Medicare, regardless of the vendor, you're going to get X% of what your cost was, your cost, which what you say, 83 today?
Yeah.
So you get 100, but it's not to exceed.
100%.
It's not to exceed 100, right? You get 20% bump, but they're not going to let you. It's not a money-making venture for critical access hospitals. It is for PPS facilities. That doesn't matter to y'all. So, so you get X%. You're going to get 100% of the cost that you spend for those items that are eligible. Okay? What that really means, as I understand it, is that, you know, items that aren't eligible, you don't get reimbursed anything for, right? You get zero. So, where do you want to spend your money?
Work for reimbursement.
I mean, you know, know, and you provide your paperwork to Medicare, you show them what you spend, and then they calculate it based on, you know, you look at a prior period, and that's what you're getting your 83% from. Obviously, you've looked at those numbers already, and that's how it works.
You can send, I mean, if you send our contract in, the whole contract in, Medicare is gonna determine what is eligible.
Right.
And they're gonna go through and say, this is not eligible, this is not eligible, and they're gonna come back and tell you that. If you send health plans proposal in, it's gonna work the same way, as far as how they're gonna come back and say, this is eligible, this is not eligible.
However, the important thing for y'all to know is we're providing financing. We're providing 0% financing. And our contract says that you don't pay us until you receive meaningful use funds. You have Medicaid and you have Medicare. Do you have 10% Medicaid?
Yeah, we've got $68,000, I think, left over the next 2 years. I can't remember, we received half of it this year, you know, and then it's 30% and 20% over the next 2.
Okay, so what we're gonna ask, and not only what we ask, what we agree to, there's no secrets here. What we're agreeing to is that as you get those checks in for Medicaid and Medicare related to meaningful use, they go against the balance due to us. So we're gonna be here providing a lot of services, installing hardware, installing software, training your people how to use the system a long time before we ever get some money from you. You know, depending on where your Medicaid is. Medicaid's a small percentage of this. But when you do get your Medicare money, that's when we want whatever that balance is, and you're obligated to write us a check for that until it covers the full balance due. You know, but the alternative is third-party financing. You know, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're going out there and we're investing all this time and effort and giving you a product that we know we can get you across the finish line with. And then, you know, we both win. You know, we're going to make money, but we're in business to make money. You know, we just found a way to make it where it's not cost prohibitive to you and to where you can get the things that you need to run your business. And, you know, the market conditions have been favorable for this. We are a financially conservative company. We have no long-term debt. We're in a financial position to do this. So, you know, that's a good thing. You know, I wouldn't have been there almost 25 years if things hadn't been good and make sense and all that. Lyle wouldn't.
It's the only place we've ever worked.
So,
really.
Anyway, and our customer is the same. You know, we don't give them a reason to leave us. If you take care of them and you take care of employees and don't give people a reason to leave, then most of the time they're not. So, did I answer your question? I kept rambling.
That's good. You have a program, a software program, and you're gonna install it, but as things change with the medical field.
Right.
Then you have to make changes to that
Absolutely.
program. You have to have updates to your software.
Absolutely.
Now, did I understand you a while ago that when those updates are having to be made, we won't be charged for those?
Absolutely. Yep. Here's what you don't pay for anything. Let me back up. No such thing as free. Firm believer in that. No such thing as free. They come to you as part of your monthly maintenance. Okay. So as you're paying that gives you the right to those, we call them enhancement releases. So once you license an application, then those enhancements come to you. As long as your monthly support is current.
And that's covered by our maintenance.
Right, it is. And the only time you would incur a cost is if we, you know, in 1983, there wasn't anything such as computerized physician order entry. Well, there was a time when we developed that, and then we developed it, and customers bought it, but that application fit into everything else we'd already built. You know, we didn't have to go, we didn't say there's a need for this let us go find a company that has it, and then we'll try to bolt it on. Or the changes have become so challenging that we're gonna sunset this product, do away with it, and go back to our customer base and tell them, hey, we've got this new product, and you need to re-up. If you wanna stay with us, you need to re-up. That's not how we run business.
You've got your own people that can update your software.
Absolutely. Our own development.
1,400 of them.
Our own development staff. And it's a hard business. It's hard. Healthcare is hard, technology's hard, and you put the two of them together and you get something really, really hard.
Not only do we have our own people that can update the system, we have lab techs, we have rad techs, we have nurses, we have pharmacists, we have a full-time physicianal staff. Those are the individuals that have worked in hospitals that come to do the install and support CPSI. So.
And you know, it's the people that believe, it's the people that make the businesses work, and the tools that you provide them to do it with. You got to have good people, and you know, we've got good tools and we've got good people, and our people understand that our system is a tool. It's not a magic wand. It's a tool, and they understand the business and what needs to be accomplished in the business, and they know how to use the tool to accomplish what the business needs to have happen, and how to teach your people that.
Any other questions?
Okay, on your training, and this is something I asked earlier, on the training, because our problem's been, we train, the people go back to Timbuktu, 6 months later, they have to come back and it's a new person training. Y'all don't have that, I mean, I like the idea that you're saying your people will be here 24/7 for X amount of time, and they'll be learning, our people will learn it with your people standing behind them saying, no, don't do that, but do this, that type of deal. Is that right, that you'll, and say in 6 months, if we still have a problem with, hopefully we won't have a problem, your people will still be able to say, they're not learning on the job as they're teaching our people, I guess.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to identify that. The other thing is there are tools out there for y'all to identify trends. We're going to use them. We're going to teach y'all how to use them, too. But, you know, there's that first time that we leave. I mean, there comes a time when we leave, you know, and anxiety levels are probably a little higher as that first day is approaching, that our people aren't going to be there to say, hey, is this the right thing to do? But they leave. Well, then we come back and do a follow-up visit. There are scheduled follow-up visits. However, there are also additional educational opportunities that we can provide forever that don't cost you anything. You know, whether
Webinars.
it's individual one-on-one, you know, remote, whether it's a video that we have on our customer website. We do have customer meetings throughout the year. I believe there's about 4 different opportunities right now that we have. And what you're asking is important, and it's important for y'all as a board to know that the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges that, you know, I think we all face, whether it's with our system or anything else, is once we start using a tool, if that tool is continuing to change, our education has to continue also. So continuing education is important if we want to ensure that we're taking full advantage of the tools that we're using. So I would encourage you to support your staff in their involvement and participation in continuing education, just like I'm sure you do today for your clinicians that need CEUs and things like that. There are, and we provide those to your clinicians as a byproduct of learning the system and the enhancements. But support your staff when they say, hey, we have a customer user group meeting that we may need to go to, and because they have these educational opportunities, it's only going to help your facility. And people that stay involved and continue that education that we provide and take advantage of those opportunities, they're part of that 458. You know, again, I said we don't do it by ourselves. That's their side of it. And, yeah, the education is there. Long answer to your question. Any other questions?
Anybody else have anything? Well, I thank, both you gentlemen for your time.
Thank
Just
y'all.
leave it up until we come
We'll step
back.
out, I think y'all have somebody coming in, and we'll.
Do you have any follow-up questions for the other group, or
I do not.
my turn to?
Oh, all right, well, we'll get out of your way, Andy. Fun start. We appreciate y'all's time. Yeah, there are no more other questions.
I'll go tell you. I'll be right back.
Okay.
We appreciate y'all having us.
Thank y'all for coming.
Very much.
Y'all are from Alabama, then y'all have had the rain, right? Or y'all getting flooded? If
No,
you
not
do,
right.
bring it to us.
We get, plenty of rain. We're not flooding right now, but I mean, Mobile, where we are, gets quite a bit of rain. Especially starting in the spring, all through the summer. We might get a shower every afternoon, but it's just to steam things up real good for us. So, we're right, we're all the way down the next week. We're right there.
Oh, y'all got hit by the hurricane?
Yeah, we do. We've had,
Rory graduates, Asheville Shore.
something different every year. It's a tornado somewhere, with us.
But y'all had God planted trees, that's nice. My brother lives in Oklahoma,
Oh, okay.
from Wisconsin.
Yep.
I've got to go through Alabama, and I'm like,
Well, we get that a lot. People are like, oh, I passed through Mobile on my way to Florida.
We're kinda like this table with some pine trees and beach and water.
But we got.
We have got plenty of trees, we got.
I know, but I want real God planted trees.
I used that yesterday on my ribs and chicken stew. That makes me good.
And y'all do provide us with manuals.
Absolutely, electronic manuals. And certainly that is part of it.
We didn't get that with our.
And you've got online help screens. Well, and then like if you're in the middle of doing something in software, you can hit a help screen and it'll take you right to where you need to go. That's all part of it.
Those updates are like, like you're updating your QuickBooks, it says, your free online updates.
It's similar to that. And they come out, our major releases come out every 12 to 18 months. And then, of course, as part of that support agreement, all your federal and state regulatory requirements, we provide those as part of that agreement. So,
back here, up to here, where she could get a dog, and all that, well, it was water hanging in the gate, the guy was,
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Amy.
a little while, a few days before that, now, I talked to Don Friday, Sunday, and they had got.
It's amazing, I can remember when you needed a big
Oh.
suitcase to bring out.
And it's funny you say that, when you're telling that story, Troy's telling a story about doing one of these, 1993 board meeting. Press was there, and without that, we had to carry these big old 486s and CRTs. About half the time they wouldn't work, and he got up in front of everybody, and it didn't work.
It didn't work. We were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, literally 30, 40 minutes ago, we were talking.
Y'all want the table back this way?
Oh, we can get it later.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Hands for a
much.
lot of shaking hands here.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Next step, y'all be careful there.
Thank
All right.
you. We'll do a good job for y'all. Thanks, Andy.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, they need.
Another gentleman did want to come in.
Okay. Mark this little settee over here, and it's very uncomfortable.
I'll pay good bucks for that, I think it's $30. Unless you have a different chair, you might as well, it really don't move.
Okay.
Are they coming back in?
Well, they wanted to come in just to reiterate maybe.
They are coming back in?
They
Don't
went
look
back.
like it. They might show, oh, no, here comes Tom.
Hey, gang. Tough format there, huh? That, just wanted to come back and, make sure if, you had any questions, respond to a couple, maybe last points before we leave town today.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
Come back to, or?
No?
but thank you very much.
Okay. All right, I guess, I don't know if I have any parting thoughts for you, but, you know, it's a tough decision, obviously. You've got a lot of, things to look at. You know, there's a lot of data out there on the market, I think, you know, in terms of, meaningful use reimbursement and those sorts of things. You know, again, our approach is to take a conservative approach. You guys have to decide whether that's the right thing for you to do or not to. I think, you know, we've been pretty successful in the county market space and the rural hospital market space. There are vendors, you know, that have gotten more people across the line to meaningful use faster than we have. In fact, I think you're one of those statistics, right? You attested for stage 1 meaningful use, right? Very quickly. So getting across the line quickly, getting to meaningful use isn't really what it's all about, right? It's about long-term success of the system. So the number one thing I could encourage you to do is, you know, contact references and talk to them. In this marketplace, you know, it's, most of the market has made a decision at least one time, right? Just like you folks have, right? And so it's a kind of a replacement market, if you will. So when we're coming in, we're replacing somebody, at times we're getting replaced, right? So there's not a hospital out there that doesn't probably have a system. Most of the time it's somebody's replacing somebody else out there in the marketplace. That's just the nature of the business that we're in. And I think, you know, they probably have their list. I'm sure we've got our list of places we've replaced them, just like we have a list of places we've replaced Prognosis or NextGen or any of the other competitors in the marketplace. The number one thing you guys can do is to probably talk to people that have used both systems. So I'd encourage you to do that. I don't know if they provided a reference for that, but I think the very last time we replaced CPSI, we provided that reference to Andy, so he has it. You can call and talk to that CEO, and she'll tell you, you know, why they use both systems and answer any questions you have about how the different, you know, companies actually operate. So I'd encourage you to do that rather than listen to a bunch of sales guys. But tough decision. So I recognize that. If there's any follow-up questions that you have for us, obviously Andy knows how to reach us, and we're happy to talk to you about it, and we'll come back out and show you something. So best of luck with your decision. I wish you the most success this time around. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we need discussion and action, so, really, I guess, Andy, we should see what you have to say about this.
Well, I waffled back and forth, to be truthful with you, for a week. And this is the difference I see in the proposals. CPSI will be cheaper, even though there's the added cost of the extra cap on the implementation. Healthland arrived at that $70,000 cap on the implementation, training, and travel. By basically, they're going to share. We would be sharing a lot of costs with Stanford. Stanford voted this morning to go with Healthland. So this proposal was contingent on us entering into kind of like a mutual aid agreement with Stanford. CPSI proposal is a standalone deal. Since Stanford is going with Healthland, I mean, this proposal is valid here with what's in front of us.
Did they tell you why? Have you talked to them?
Basically, you talk to the big reason I know is because the administrator there in Stanford is really good friends with the administrator in Colorado City, Robbie Dewberry, which I've talked to him. They were able to go from, in 6 months from implementation with Healthland, they were totally paperless throughout their clinics and the hospital. And so they had a very successful implementation. Everything went well. Their people were trained. They had 1 week there where their billing was slowed down, and it caught right back up the next week. So it was almost like there was no hitches from the switch. And you got to remember, they were moving from APS to Healthland. Knox City, same conversion. They went from APS to Healthland. Different story there. They had a lot of implementation problems with Healthland. But it's basically from the administrator in Knox City tells me it's from the people in the facility there. not catching on to the new. Believe me, there's a huge difference between these classic APS systems and what the new things are. I mean, it's night and day difference. It's like going from first grade to high school in one day. You know, that's how huge the difference is between the two. Knox City did not handle the conversion well. They had a lot of issues. On the CPSI side, Haskell and, what was it, Sweetwater and Rotan, they've been on the CPSI system so long that every implementation's almost been a phase in, I guess, of a new product or something. So everything's gone fairly smoothly.
You've been leaning toward this.
I'm gonna lean towards CPSI just because the out-of-pocket expenses are better. I like the implementation plan of the phased-in deal for Healthland better, but I don't think CPSI would leave us hanging either. I mean, they're talking about a 90-day pre-implementation planning and building the configuration of the system, and then 90 days of on-site afterwards. That's why their cost of implementing is at $135,000. Healthland's cap theirs for us at $70,000, but that was again because they're going to be spending time back and forth between here and Stanford. We
Say
got
they
burned.
don't have more than we do. I mean, more
Exactly.
problems.
That's how we got burned last time really bad, was because there was 4 hospitals in that prognosis group thing, and
That's the main thing that bothers me about the health plan proposal, is that it depends on us also deciding to go with him like Stanford did. That
yeah,
kind of
I
makes
mean,
me nervous.
that's the deal. There is some risk involved with I think with the CPSI thing. I mean, I've listened to BKD, all they could tell me was on that, well, you're looking at $170,000 we know up front with Healthland will not meet the meaningful use allowable cost. I mean, they're very adamant about that up front. The way CPSI is structured, their agreement, we can get 100% of the total cost of the system because of the way they configure the agreement. To this day, BKD, Beverly Whitley, told me that CPSI has gotten by with that interpretation. But they cannot guarantee, nor will CPSI guarantee us that on the backside of this, sometime in 2014, there's going to be a meaningful use audit where they're going to come back in and look at this and say, guys, you can't discount the financial piece of this to zero. So there's a risk there that if we go with this, there's a chance we won't have, will be $0 out of pocket. There's a chance that they'll come back in on the backside and we're going to have to pay $150,000 back to CPSI, because that's what their piece in there was actually valued at $156,000. I didn't make that real clear. Yes, but
I have another question for you. Down here at the bottom, and this is Tom Memorial Hospital employee preference.
yes.
Is CPSI, and then Healthland is a very, very close second.
Yes.
Now, when we're talking about Tacoma Memorial Hospital employees, and I don't expect you to name them all, but I want to know kind of who has looked at it.
Basically the entire, every department head, not, some of the individual employees did not, but every department head looked at it. They went through the demos.
Yeah, I looked there.
And Gene kind of looked at it.
Mm-hmm. We done the training that they provided.
What did y'all think of it?
I'm not gonna put myself out there.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Well, I
really,
don't think that's fair.
Well,
Because
no, what
we
I'm
want them
saying,
to know.
well, no, what I'm saying is, I could go either way, they're both good systems. But until you actually work on them, to see what kind of work they're gonna do, I mean,
I understand that.
I can't say that CPSI is better than Healthland. I worked on the APS for years, but it's not nothing like the Healthland now.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
And
So that's really not a big, I mean, that was kind of a selling point for him. Was shoving
I mean, it's totally.
And I told him before we came over here, I don't know if I'm totally comfortable with us going back to APS because.
Well, not if they're gonna phase it out by 2014.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a temporary, and he's looking for a quick fix to our,
So, well, what that's gonna mean is if we go back to APS, pay there are people that work there that are not familiar with APS, so they gotta learn how to use that. Then they're gonna have to turn right around and learn how to use the new health
Change
plan
the
system, so
system
that's two
Yeah.
systems, whereas the CPSI will be
In
one.
the implementation plan, I've talked to both groups with CPSI is much more comfortable with it than Health Plan was, but that was that on October the 1st, we install and have the new system in place. Well, September the 30th would be the last day we do admissions and prognosis. Now, for a period of 90 to 120 days, we have to run both systems simultaneously. Everything new coming in goes into CPSI. All of the admissions prior to October the 1st, we keep prognosis going until we collect every cent we can. IHM tells me we've collected all we can out of the prognosis system. Anybody you've had admitted in prognosis, we've collected what we can. There's nothing left to get here. Then we shut down the prognosis and we can accurately get some balance forwards of the patient accounting into whatever new system we choose. This was IHM's idea. So just basically, the only thing that changes, their prognosis is still running, but only for the purpose of billing those prior admissions.
I think
whether
that's a good
outpatient or
idea to
inpatient.
keep
That
that going, to
keeps
have access to it.
everything in the new system clean.
Everything put in the new system is new.
Everything is in there is new, and so
Zero
when we
balance.
get to the, zero balances. So then whenever we get to the end of the 90 or 120 days, when we determine we collected what we can, that's when we can go through patient account by patient account and carry over those balances for the state. It will amount, the only serious issue we found is that a person who's got a previous balance under prognosis and a new one coming in under whatever new system is, they will be getting two statements that month if they come in during the new period. So you're getting two statements, one generated out of old, one generated out. Now they say there might be a way we can combine that and fix it as we do it, but we haven't got that far in the planning process. So to me, that made a lot of sense.
Well, for me,
I think the phased-in implementation with Healthland is probably a little safer, but it doesn't really solve our problems quickly. I mean, it really does.
I don't think operating on the APS would be,
I just see a lot of issues there with that I think they're just having a knee-jerk reaction to
for me,
potential solutions.
personally, you can sit here and listen to two presentations,
Oh, yeah.
and that's all we've done. Y'all are the ones that are actually having to deal with this stuff, and that's why we need
Your input.
your input.
The business office was pretty convincingly CPSI, but the clinical side was a little, and there wasn't a big difference on the clinical side, but Healthland did carry the lab, radiology, and nursing staff on the clinical side.
Whether this is anything to look at or not, when you see these last two gentlemen that were here, trying to sell their program, and one of them's been with the company 25 years, and the other one's been with the company 23 years, that says something to me, right there.
Well, I kinda like that idea that.
Well, and they are correct in a lot of the things. CPSI has been a linear developed. I mean, they haven't added in, like I said, they haven't acquired, and they haven't tried to bolt on different solutions. I mean, one of the biggest things Healthland's got there is their long-term care solution. They had one in Healthland that they didn't like. So they went out and bought this other company, and now they're gonna be, it's called an HL7 interface with their system, which is, I'm sorry, I don't.
so either one of these programs could take care of help with the nursing home stuff too.
Yeah, see, both of them have that. Then, like I said, the only significant difference between the two is just their implementation schedule. Cost of ownership over the 5 years is almost identical between the two. It's just, what do you feel more comfortable with, that phased-in implementation with Healthland, or just it's a Katie bar the door 90 days prior, 90 days after, and then their follow-ups with CPSI, but it's part of the issue with prognosis that failed so badly was that we had not even 4 days. It was 2 days of implementation. 2 days of implementation and training. And then they had some kids in there that had went to work the prior. That was a miserable plan to start with that never had a chance to succeed.
Y'all asked my opinion. The thing of it is, they only came in, we only had like 30 to 45-minute sessions with them.
With these people.
All of them.
Yes.
I mean, basically, here you're trying to absorb everywhere you go or what applies to you. And like I said, until you actually use their system, you don't know how well it's gonna work.
You got about what we got tonight.
But basically,
Right.
They was running us in
I have a.
different departments because we can't get away from our current job.
No.
We had to absorb a lot of this, and unless I've got something before me to work on the system, and if I've got questions I can ask right there.
Did you like any particular personalities, was my big thing? Did you feel like you were getting more answers from one company versus the other if you did have a question?
The thing about the CPSI is they came in right when Gary was having his surgery, so I had to leave. So, they came back and done a little
And we did a follow-up.
follow-up with me and Jean, because she didn't get some of the, they even come to her office and sit with her, but she didn't get the training either because we was running out of time. Because, we was trying to get in with the nurses and everything else. There again, I've been on this prognosis for a year. I've learned where I can go. It's just that you're going to have to learn all over with these two systems, CPSI or Healthland. Healthland has some of the old APS people that we've worked with before, had a good, rapport with them. With Healthland, they're different people from what the people were at APS. I think the people with CPSI would really help us out. I think they would be very knowledgeable. They're talking about bringing them in here and leaving them here with us. My deal with splitting with Stanford, who's to say we would get equal time?
And who's to say they wouldn't get mad and fire this health plan company, and then what would happen to our costs? Yeah, what would happen to our deal with
And I'm
them?
not saying I'm not bad-mouthing health plan, but,
That
we've already been in
just
this
makes me
problem
nervous.
with prognosis.
That just makes me nervous.
Yeah.
We need to do it on our own.
Seems like the.
Haskell Administrator is a big proponent for CPSI.
Have you talked to Rotan?
Yeah, what I can, I don't have a very good relationship with the, now the Sweetwater, Donna Boatwright, she is a big proponent of CPSI, but of course that's a much larger facility, but she's worked with it her whole career. Same with Fran and Haskell, that's what she's worked with. She knows that system inside out, backwards and forwards. That's all she's ever used.
That might be some support help.
I think she worked at Sweetwater.
Yeah, and
she
she
went
actually, that's where she
to
learned it,
Haskell.
she was the assistant.
Well, do I have a feeling y'all are kind of leaning to this CPSI?
It looks like it.
I am leaving, I have to throw this
To me, that's kind of a.
But I have to admit, it's a very slight lean, because I see benefits to both sides, but overall, I think in the long run, there's a potential there that, yes, we might have to pay some money back the way they're structuring the deal, but I'm not as worried about that as the Healthland guy is. The bottom line, we know we're gonna have to pay $170,000 out of pocket with the Healthland rate. There's a chance that we could avoid some of that with the.
So are you wanting us to decide on this tonight?
What I actually need to do, because I've given both copies of the contracts to Fletcher, I would like y'all to let me finish the contract negotiations with one of these vendors and be able to sign it. I don't want to turn it loose right now, because even in the CPSI agreement, we found 20 issues in that 68-page document that need to be addressed. And that's just Fletcher looking through it for 2 days. Healthland gave me a generic proposal that has nothing to do with the numbers they present. And when you get, I'm getting under the gun here. We've got 90 days before October 1st. That means June, July, and August. We really need to be getting into the planning phase so we can start implementing the training in September before we go live. On October 1st.
Would it be good for you if we decided to?
It would, because that would ease a lot of pressure on me. I know where I'm dealing with one company, and I can finalize the contract, and I may be able to squeeze some more concessions out of them, and at least get some guarantees in detail about what the implementation will be, how many people we're, and how we're gonna phase in each part of it with either company. I mean, it's I'm just telling you, this has been a bit overwhelming the last couple of months for me, and it's.
Well, we need to get that off your back.
Do we
it's
have
a
the
tough-
people in, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but
No,
is there gonna be a problem with our personnel being able to handle this?
I don't think, I think we're structured now because I know it's talking details that y'all aren't familiar with, but Sandy may be, but right now with IHM on board, we've got, all we were responsible to do is getting our claims into the, what they call an 837 file, they'll put for electronic transmission. Once that we get things into that 837 file, it becomes IHM's responsibility. I mean, I know we feel like they've been involved in everything on the backside, but basically we pay IHM to, once a claim gets into that 837 file, then it becomes their responsibility to get them paid, get them collected, and get the secondary file. And they're doing a good job of it. So with the limited scope of what we deal with here, yes, I think we can manage it. The great thing about it is with either system, I think we can eventually get to the point where we can bring our billing back when we need to. I mean, it's
Yeah,
and
you're
I
talking
think
about IHM, and I think our goal is to someday get rid of it.
exactly, and I think either one of these systems can accomplish it. I think CPSI would probably get us there a little quicker. But it involves training the people. I mean, there's a lot of issues there. I don't know if y'all noticed all the, oh yeah, I don't know if y'all listed there, but there's probably 75 applications that are built into these systems that, well, Deborah will probably be dealing with 6 of them. I mean, you've got another person that's got 5 of them that they have to learn. We're in bigger facilities, there's one person working on each one of them. We're a bit different. It takes a while to learn it all.
One thing about the CPSI, they would try to implement the whole system.
Yes, they would implement.
There
the whole
wouldn't be
system.
any, financials the first of October, the
Where I
clinical
get concerned-
January 1st. It's
And
all gonna be done at one time.
It's all, where I get concerned too, and right now we've got our nursing staff that's sitting there, they're doing paper charting, and then they're trying to do the electronic charting on the back side of it. So they're actually duplicating every step those girls take. If we went to the health plan, well, part of the deal there is that at some point, well, probably tomorrow, if we agreed to that, I would stop even dealing with the prognosis chart. Well, then you've got them doing strictly strictly the paper charting again. Getting them fired up again in January or February of next year when they're talking about implementing the clinicals again, I think it would be like pulling teeth, to be honest with you, without anesthetic. I mean, it's just literally, I mean, you've got a bunch of, the girls there are just so frustrated with being dual work that I think that right now it would just be tough to get them to restart. And it's.
Well, you might as well go electronic, because that's where it's gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in another year with the stage 3, part of the stage 3 requirement's gonna be that we're paper. We no longer have paper chart. They haven't officially announced that yet, but everybody knows that's where it's going. I mean, stage 2's next, and that's where you get your outpatient services to electronic health records, like our physical therapy and radiology and labs. But like I said, there's no easy solution, but I know it's.
Dennis, you got anything to say about it?
I know you probably got dropped into the
Yeah,
skillet here.
I was wondering, when you talk to the administrators who go to the hospitals, how long have some of them had this particular plan?
Well, the lady at Haskell and Sweetwater, they've had it for all 20 years they've been in the industry with CPSI.
Did you talk to them about any follow-up help?
Yeah, and the Fran and Haskell said, well, just come over any time, if you, of course, actually showing up over there saying, hell.
You're talking about CPSI.
Oh, CPSI will.
For down the road, I mean,
Yeah.
after they implement it, and then they're here for a while, and then they.
Yeah,
leave.
their plan is they're here for basically 90 days, and then they come back and do follow-ups for the next 3 months. So
But now
you're looking at
after
6 months after. After that, it depends on being able to call and get the support over the phone. Go into one of these. I'm sure they would send somebody if we asked them to, but it's gonna cost you, you're gonna pay for it.
Well, you do the same thing with health plan, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Basically.
After you sign off that you're fully implemented and trained, I mean, then that's where all this stops.
Yeah.
And then anything extra you have them come back to do later, you pay for it. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Well, you're probably not really gonna know till after you get them.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And part of the deal is, and that Deborah's right, I mean, you sit here and you look at these guys doing these demos, and these are highly trained people that know all this systems inside out, and they make things look like it's just so easy,
Right.
but it's not. I mean, you're looking at, like I said, 75 applications just on the business office side alone. That's not even counting the electronic health record on the clinic side, it's just, but they just make it look so simple.
Well, I'm leaning, I just fell into this, but I'm leaning with Sandy on this. I don't think going in with Stanford would be a good idea, personally. Because, like I say, if they do change plans or whatever.
We're having to share.
Yeah, and share the personnel.
Yeah.
They're actually, they're going, you know they're gonna be over there more than out here.
And I can tell you, I mean, I know that their proposal that Stanford looked at, there's more dollars there for their health plan. I mean, we're at, what were they, 23 for the cost of system? I mean, I know Stanford's was over 1.2, it's basically the same agreement.
There's $400,000 worth of reasons for them to spend more time over there, so.
Yeah. But anyway, it's.
Oh, it comes down to money, then.
It really does. And like what I want y'all to understand, I want the people in the community to understand is, yes, these are some huge dollars we're talking about. But for the most part, you've got to understand that all of this is paid by the federal government through that meaningful use incentive plan. So we're not actually out any dollars out of pocket. I mean, yes, we're making a choice. What is not covered there will go into the cost report settlement probably for 2015, not this next year, but in 2015. That cost report settlement there, and there we'll recoup about 60 to 65% of what we've got out of pocket. So you have to look at this two separate deals. You've got the incentive plan program that initially covers 90% of this cost, and then you've got the cost report settlement, which will come in we'll finish that fiscal year in 2014, and the cost report settlement will be in May of 2015. And that's where you'll recoup 60 to 65% of that, what you did actually spend out of pocket. So, I mean, just a rough estimate, you're looking at this, whatever system here actually costing us about 10 cents on the dollar.
But you look at what prognosis cost for us with this $600,000 or $700,000 that we're not gonna have a prayer to get back. This is a giving. If we can get something that'll bring us all back, bring it all back to us. I would suggest, my suggestion is CPSI.
CPSI, I think, I like the idea of your training.
Yeah.
What do you think, Andy?
I think CPSI.
Well, then, I believe to make it official, we need somebody to make a motion and vote on it. And that's actually what you'd like for us to do.
Yes, and that way I can deal with one and hammer out the final details.
You
of
made
the
the motion.
contract.
Buddy makes a motion that we go with CPSI. Martha second. All for it. Motion carries. And
That way
that,
you can deal with one contract.
yeah, I think that's probably good, but you just got one contract to deal with.
Believe me, at one point I had 5 companies, and keeping this stuff straight is just.
Okay, that's the end of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Sandy makes a motion to adjourn, second.
That's it.
these 2-hour meetings.
At least it's not midnight.
I think they're short.
Yeah.
We used to.
We don't have those 10 and midnight.
I'm sorry, but if y'all start doing that, I'm just gonna get up and leave.
I know. Through this grade, are you ridiculous?
We used to see the sun come up.
No. Not in this group. We call it quits. Nope.
If y'all have a meeting that long, I haven't done my job, that's what I look at it.
Well, that was the problem we were having.
So, Billy, while I'm thinking about it,
Yeah.
can I get your, address?
Yes, 1850.
Highway. 1850, okay.
Highway 83.
Oh, can I borrow you about one other issue?
Yep.
Do you have a cell phone, in case we ever need to get a hold of you?
Real quick. 0787.
0787?